People just desperately want more drinks, and you're like, I'm going to put a load of ice in your drinks and then milk those fuckers for money.
Thank you very much for joining us for One More Round.
And welcome back to another episode of Film Club. My name's Andy Harrison. I'm one of your ho-hosts. I as a ho and a host. To my right, as always, Andy Donaldson, the other ho-host.
Hello.
Every single week in Film Club, we invite you guys at home along to watch a film with us. We dive into the history of cinema and ask the question, does this film hold up? Andy?
I like that. Well played.
This week, I'm going to do this first.
Do you want to put it there or there?
And then it's going to get covered by the poster, Spider-Man.
I'll let it go.
To be precise, Sam Raimi's original Spider-Man from 2002. Andy, what is Spider-Man all about?
Are you fucking kidding me?
No, I'm not.
Spider-Man?
Give us, in case someone out there doesn't know the rough idea of what Spider-Man is, give them the rundown.
It's a guy who's in school called Peter Parker.
Yep.
And then he goes to this conference. He fancies this girl. He's got a mate who's rich. And then he goes to this school trip and he gets bitten by a spider, develops powers, which he can cling to walls, super strength because he goes all muscly. Then he has his web and stuff. And he finds out himself, his uncle dies, I should mention. And his uncle's like a big thing, like great power comes great responsibility, great line. And yeah, it's about him getting used to his powers. Then suddenly an evil menace coincidentally comes at the same time. Sorry. But it does. And and it's about Spider-Man defeating the Green Goblin.
So,
whilst also Peter Parker falling in love with Mary Jane, and there's a love triangle going on between him and his best friend and Mary Jane.
Last week, we had a text about Spider-Man.
Oh, from me?
From you.
Oh, right, yeah.
Not from, we didn't get a text from an audience member. We got a text from you about Spider-Man not holding up as a superhero film.
No. Was it? It's definitely that? I thought it was a film of its own. In its own right as a film.
Yeah, and they didn't hold up. Was it not?
Maybe.
So anyway, where did this information, where did your perception of this come from?
Me and Mike were having a conversation, of course. Mike's my lame film critic that's also actually a really good film critic, and he brings up some good points. Like Fantastic Mr. Foxy was the one that brought up like the All-American cast, and we spoke about that. Anyway, point is, he was on about like Spider-Man, like, and I must admit I do agree with him on some parts. The main one was almost like it's a bit of a, what's it called, double-edged sword?
Yeah.
So you've got great casting, great chemistry between everyone, but these guys are supposed to be 16, and other fuck 16. It might as well be done at the end of university.
18.
Is that how it is in high school in America?
Their American high school is 18, isn't it? Fact checker?
It's a bit younger than that, I think.
That fact check is rubbish.
A wild thing appeared. No, right, so they're old. If you get away from the fact that Spider-Man's done when he's supposed to be 16 in the comics, this is a good film. I wouldn't say it's a massively amazing, one of the best films ever, but it's a good film. And there's a few different things. I noted down, obviously me, I'll put notes down. There's a few different factors. Let me just actually get my notes up. A few different factors to take into account. You what, buddy?
15 when he's bitten.
15?
Yeah, that's not the question we're asking, Rick.
Oh, what's the question?
How old are you when you leave high school in America?
I think you are 18. You're 17 or 18, because that's when you leave high school, don't you, to go to what they call college, which is university.
Yeah. So it makes sense for him to be 18.
But these guys don't look it.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So you need to take that back. I think it's also, I can't remember, I was 11 at the time. You would have been 12, wouldn't you? I remember that hype that Spider-Man brought, but I think looking back on it then, especially when I text, like I watched it, and I was like, oh my God, I wish how good this film was. But I think it's so diluted by the sheer amount of superhero films that we have nowadays. And it's a bit of a shame because it will have put a bit of a down on Spider-Man, especially with the effects and how they've progressed nowadays. There was a few special effects in Spider-Man. Some were great, some were questionable. Like that scene where he's got his, not when he's got the proper suit on, when he's just been in the wrestling fight.
Yeah.
He's going through, I'm sorry, but that CGI was horrible.
I agree 100%. Some of the effects in this film have not held up like at all. Some stuff where he's running across the rooftop.
Oh, it's horrible.
There's the bit where he starts to chase after the burglar.
Yeah.
Basically, any of those CG stuff where it's like entirely CG, we don't have like a core physical component at the heart of it, does not hold up at all.
However, to contradict that, there's some really good CGI effects. The Spidey sense was good. When Butch came in, and he came the thing,
exactly, and all that stuff, which basically took like the Jurassic Park way of making CGI work, which is you don't just do CGI. It's like when he turns all rubber, when he's jumping off those when he's chasing after the shooter, And then that green screen when like he's jumping off the rooftops, all that stuff which is pure CGI creation doesn't work, doesn't hold up. It never has, never will. But what Jurassic Park did and what this does is stuff that does work, which is where what they're doing is blending some CG with a physical creation. So like they're actually shooting really stuff and mixing it with some
and
CG
I think
elements.
there's some really good elements like where Mary Jane's falling, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Even when he's doing his web, he's going out. I actually like that.
All the web work that's practical webs.
Is that what it is? Is it practical webs?
Yeah, they're actual real objects.
No way, I didn't know that. And they've got a green screen behind it, I imagine.
And then like there's all other stuff. I always remember for some reason it stands in my mind when he's messing about with the webs in his room, and it cuts that wide shot, and it's the room just covered in webs. Yeah, and they're all real webs. They're all like, you can tell that they are like.
Because you must admit you could like for me. I don't know if I always say this, but I don't know as much as you, and I'm starting to learn. I could tell there was a lot more practical effects. I didn't know the web slinging was. I can't even pronounce that phrase. Web slinging. So
web slinging, yeah.
Anyway, it's
hard. Well, technically the web swinging isn't all practical.
Well, but what I'm trying to say is, I could tell there was a lot of use of practical effects and some really good moments where there's, you got your CGI going along and it cuts to a scene of Spider-Man, his face, and yeah, you can tell that Spider-Man there, then it cuts like the editing of this, how it's cut from that. You look at Spider-Man's face back into him doing a dive. That really worked. That was really good. And that practical element that it brought to the film, I could tell that. I appreciate that, and it was great. There was
and all that.
Okay.
All that comes from the strongest thing about this film, undoubtedly, unarguably the strongest thing about this film.
What, Sam Raimi?
Sam Raimi.
Yeah,
as a director.
Yeah.
Sam Raimi is a genius stroke by whoever decided to hire Sam Raimi to direct this film. Is perfect. He has this irreverence for the material. You can tell he grew up with like classic Spider-Man stuff, but also
he's got his own quirky kind of ness to it.
Exactly. Sam Raimi has a certain style, which is a Sam Raimi style, and that weird blend of stuff which he did on like Evil Dead, where it's like the practical, almost the horror elements. He almost turns at times in this film the Green Goblin into a horror character.
Like look at that part with the Aunt May and she's telling the prayer, then Green Goblin comes in and goes, finish it. Yep. Or there's all those like kind of nightmares that they have. Peter wakes up and he's like this Goblin comes towards him. Great. The Green Goblin as a costume was horrible.
It's a bit shit, yeah.
A bit shit, mate. It was like watching Power Rangers back when I was younger. I'm sorry.
I don't agree with this. So this is something that goes around online all the time, which is like people always call it, it's poke fun, it's the Green Power Ranger. I think when we were kids...
Is that what they say?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that, sorry. But that's what I got from it, the enemy of a Power Ranger.
It does have a little element of that. They could have gone with so many better designs for it, and like there's even, I'll put it up down here, there's even some test footage they did of like a animatronic sort of face they were trying to do with this mask.
But I think it's not just the mask, it's the movement stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, you'll see the footage down here, but this footage was clearly designed for a completely different design of the Green Goblin. I don't know why they didn't go like the classic route, because they did go the classic route with everything else. Literally everything else in this film is like ripped from the comic books, except for the Green Goblin, and everything that's ripped from the comic books is awesome.
Okay, well, so what? Everything but the Green Goblin.
I mean, cast yourself back to 2001, before this film existed.
Yeah,
and we had like the closest thing we'd had to a
comic book.
And something from a comic book that had been faithfully adapted had been
what, Batman and Robin?
No, the stuff. So if you want to talk Batman, there's Tim Burton's Batman, which is '89.
Yeah.
Pretty good, but still has a little bit of camp in it, and it goes a little bit gothic, and it goes a bit Tim Burton in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You'd had Richard Donner's Superman, but then we're talking back in the 70s.
Okay.
And then 2002, you get Spider-Man.
Which has the use of stuff like CG. Granted, it's not perfect, but some great stuff.
We'd had things like Bryan Singer's X-Men, which forewent...
Was that before Spider-Man?
Just before Spider-Man. They were in production at a similar sort of time.
Okay.
And all that you'd had Blade.
Are they both Sony?
And you'd had... That's Fox. Is X-Men.
Is it? Blade was good. I actually really enjoyed Blade.
But like all these things kind of push themselves away a little bit from being too comic booky. Comic booky was almost a negative term at the time. Sam Raimi comes on scene and goes, "No, being comic booky is like the best thing for these films."
And look what he's done.
And he also marries that ideology with the perfect character for it, which is Spider-Man. You can't like do this kind of. I always feel all these films have this film and the ones that come after there's a timeless quality about them. You can't put a finger on when these films are set, because they have a kind of timelessness about them, which is very kind of apparent in comic books. And that adds to, I think, their less staying power. The fact that this is it's a story about everything that everybody can relate to. It's a story about growing up. Metaphorically, it's a story about growing up. But it's told in a different way. It's told with a different layer on top of it. And what I think Sam Raimi does is totally embrace the idea of, we're going to take all the source material. Perfect example, the suit. It's the Spider-Man suit.
I really enjoyed that.
It's perfect. And like, can you imagine before they'd ever made a film of Spider-Man, you'd had that terrible like Japanese TV show where the suit looks terrible. You had Batman where they changed up. You had Superman where like they kept that pretty much same, but it was strongly campy. X-Men, they tried to get away from the suits. Blade, they tried to get away from the suit. Everything tries to get away from that comic book suit in the early 2000s.
It's one of the main factors, isn't it?
And Spider-Man was the film that dared said, no, we're going to do exactly the comic book suit.
And what was cool as well is how they granted the CGI for it was terrible, but they made the pre-suit almost, so you know when he's in the wrestling match, and you can see the drawing. That was a great scene, that little montage scene of him drawing.
Wonderful.
And it's nice to know that there's so much thought going into the suit.
And again,
the logo.
That scene you'll see down here embraces Raimi's slightly
I was going to
cheesy.
say, that's very Sam Raimi. That's very Sam Raimi.
It's like, there's this kind of split screen thing, not split screens, like an overlay going on.
Yeah,
of him
his
and
face and the notebook.
The notebook,
and then
there's Mary Jane's face, and the car comes out, and it all looks, it's supposed to look a bit naff.
Yeah.
And it adds to the charm of it. Again, adding to the,
it's got a
here's
good,
a word
charm.
I want to staple to this film, and forever shall it lay there. Earnest. This film is earnest throughout. It's not trying to be cool. It's not trying at any point to be funny. It's not trying to be edgy. It is what it is, and it embraces what it is.
Okay, I like that. That's a very good summary. There you go, you got one of them.
I didn't know if I was getting that high five taken away there.
Yeah, I saw you hesitate. Yeah, you definitely did. It does.
Oh, there's a but.
How does this film hold itself?
What do you mean, how does it hold itself?
So what you're doing is you're seeing this film like what these other comic films haven't done. You know, this brought the suit on, it brought its edginess, it's brought the quirkiness that comic books were perceived at the time.
Yep.
If you think about this film, it's got an action scene. There's not much action in this film, or what little action. Yep. Wow.
So we let Rick sit in on this episode. The first time we've ever let Rick sit in on this episode, and his phone goes off.
Not cool.
Sorry. Shame.
2 seconds. Bit belated. So we got the we have the action. There's not much in it. Some of the action is really good. Can you just give us 2 seconds? This is the worst thing ever. Fuck's sake.
That was supposed to be the shame then.
Yeah, it'll come off
Andy
soon.
gets a shame. Shame.
Shame. Shame.
Right, moving on.
So the action. So you got the action parts, and there's little bits of action. There's some really good, and some that's a bit like the whole cable car scene at the end. I wish I had more of that. And we'll forget about the future films. You've got this love triangle going on.
Yeah.
I know what you're trying to say about this is a bit corny and stuff like that film. That love triangle's quite weird. It kind of doesn't work. I don't think it's one of the best, it adds to the little romance elements of growing up. It kind of goes a bit overboard and doesn't delve into too much with it. Yep. And there's a great example of the end scene where Mary Jane's confessing his love for Peter. Yep. That should be so much better. It's Harry's dad's fucking funeral, who's one part of the love triangle. That's not cool. You don't do that.
Do you want to know the weakest link in this entire trilogy?
What? Go on.
Kirsten Dunst. She is the weak link in this whole thing.
She was all right. She didn't massively go out there.
If you look at the casting, Aunt May is spot on. She is lovable, and you feel for her when she hurts.
Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben is
a little bit, you see.
Amazing. Like, he had this so difficult role of being the heart and the soul of the Spider-Man trilogy.
Yeah.
He managed to land it in the couple of scenes that he has. Tobey Maguire, I don't care what anyone says, is a perfect casting.
Do you know
Peter
what?
Parker.
Can we just go on this one? Actually, well, let's expand it after this whole what you're going to say.
Okay.
As Spider-Man's supposed to be 15, I don't think Tobey Maguire works. As Tobey Maguire, not necessarily being Spider-Man, fitting this role and fitting that cheekiness and emotion, I think Tobey Maguire's amazing.
Yeah, I agree. The age is wrong, but because they kind of do it with the whole cast around him, I don't mind too much.
Yeah. Okay. So
Harry Osborn, he's fine.
James Franco,
I think he's good. I don't think it's amazing, but he's fine. Willem Dafoe, amazing.
Absolutely.
So good.
I think he's one of the best things about this film.
You'll see the scene down
How
here
good
where
is
he's
that?
talking to himself in the mirror.
I know,
That's
it's
just
do you know what it
class.
reminded me? It reminded me of Gollum.
Yeah, it's Gollum. It's Gollum before Gollum
Which,
did it.
no, well, came out the same year or same time as Two Towers.
Yeah.
So it's actually really cool how they did that.
Then you've got the best casting of maybe any film ever. 100% the best casting of any comic book film
yeah,
ever
yeah, I got
that
this,
will
I got this.
never, ever be topped.
Yeah, what?
It's J.K. Simmons
Fucking awesome.
as J. Jonah Jameson.
It's just the perfect role.
You're never going to get anything
It's
better
almost
than
like
that.
it's like Stanley wrote Spider-Man, didn't he?
Yeah.
Created Spider-Man. It's almost when he wrote not J.K. Simmons. Who is it again?
J. Jonah Jameson.
See, this is how like they've got J's in the name. he went to see J.K. Simmons when he was a little baby or whatever, and said, "You're going to grow up to be
little baby J.K. Simmons there with like a cigar and a mustache already.
Yeah, just like this. Yeah, some buzz cuts. Yeah, no, absolutely sensational.
And then Kirsten Dunst is just this.
Before we do that, shout out to Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell, great cameo.
Great cameo.
Great
Absolutely
cameo.
superbly good cameo.
And he gets to
again
deliver,
loads of Raimi.
Again, he knows where to place him as well. He knows to place him subtly,
Yeah.
but in a really key
And it's
moment where he
where
gets to deliver like the line.
He's like Spider-Man, yeah, exactly. And he goes like this, and he goes, "You what kid?" and stuff like that. Just
Yeah.
That's kids. You know,
and that's something that will come up throughout the trilogy. Obviously, we're talking about his film and so on, but that's something that repeats itself throughout the trilogy.
yes, we are. So Kirsten Dunst, the worst part of the film. It's funny enough, James Franco has just come from Freaks and Geeks to do this. So he's still got that essence of Freaks and Geeks he has about him. Like this guy, he's like, he comes across like not necessarily privileged in Freaks and Geeks. He's like very kind of the cool guy. He's used to getting what he wants, and it's almost like an expansion of that character. And you see more of his because he's James Franco in this particular. If you compare those two characters in Freaks and Geeks and Spider-Man, he's a lot of similarities. But then there's more of his inner self. There's more of his like wanting to be something, aspire to be something he can't necessarily be, which you see at the end of spoilers towards Freaks and Geeks. And I think he did all right. And he's probably the youngest looking of the cast.
Yeah.
There was parts of Kirsten Dunst I thought was all right, but there was parts. But you can't deny they still had chemistry. I mean, for fuck's sake, the kiss scene.
Exactly. So there's the thing. I'd say the entire weakest point of this film is Kirsten Dunst, which makes the love triangle, like you said, awkward and kind of weak. But you can't deny it came away with one of the most iconic moments of cinema, which is the upside down kiss.
And who's that down to? Is that everyone? Is it Raimi? Is it
Probably Raimi. Or maybe someone wrote it. I couldn't tell you if that's Raimi's inclusion or if it's the writer that put that in there. I haven't read the script.
Yeah.
But regardless, a writer could write that. Raimi was the one who constructed that.
Yeah, exactly. He put everything together perfectly.
It stands perfectly. It's the perfect moment of the film. It perfectly encapsulates something the film is trying to do thematically. It's trying to put together these two characters in a slightly awkward way. It's something kind of romantic about it, but also a little bit weird. And it's wholly its own. Like, this wasn't something that was taken from like a comic book and adapted. This isn't something that's taken from like one of the animated series.
His own.
They invented this for the film, and it's gone down in cinema history.
Well, it is. I mean, yeah, it's going to be one of those moments everyone remembers.
You can't point to another romantic moment in any other comic book film and say it beats that moment. Romantic.
How this conversation came about was I was on about Wonder Woman and I really enjoyed it. And then you get a bit pissed off about how the fight scenes are CGI.
Yep. Most of this is practical.
It's got some great practical elements.
That stuff in the fire, where he's like it's slow motion leaping between the little goblin things.
Okay.
There's the stuff where like he's running along the walls to save the kid underneath the big parade balloon squishing him.
Yeah.
All practical.
Is it all practical?
That's practical. There's obviously there's bits of CG in between it to stitch it together.
Yeah.
And then you've got the stuff at the end, like you were saying, where he's trying to save Mary Jane and the kids.
Well, that doesn't look all practical, is it?
There's little bits of it which is CGI. But
yeah, but when he's holding onto the thing, it's not like, the second, compared, not just because it's a Spider-Man film, but, in the second one where he's holding the train, that seems like there's so much more strain to it, whereas this it seems to be a bit less, it seems to be
like in the second one, they definitely get the weight of, like, straining his body better.
I think that's
But this is still practical. This isn't like a rubber person. Okay, perfect example. The only bit I've really paid attention to for the trailers for Spider-Man Homecoming is that little bit at the end where it's like him between the
which
boat,
is almost like a homage to...
And that's a little rubber person in between two bits of, rubber webbing.
Well, that's the kind of the problem that the MCU is kind of going down a bit too much.
Yeah, and like that. So just to talk about that moment for him for a second, the fact that the whole culmination of this film comes down to you've got to choose between Mary Jane dying and these kids dying. That's such a great way to end a film. Like, Every time a supervillain in a comic book film has threatened to blow up the world or turn the city into lizards or like have this universe-ending event, it's never going to happen.
Besides the Dark Knight.
Like Thor 2 was never going to... No, Dark Knight's perfect. Again, because he's not threatening the entire city. The Dark Knight is threatening two boats of people.
Yeah.
It's the same thing here. When the Dark Knight, those two boats of people theoretically can die in that film. And it doesn't impact
And at the end,
like,
where you've got
the
his
sequel.
girlfriend and Two-Face.
Exactly. All that stuff can happen. That can come to fruition. Spider-Man does the same thing. He could not save that tram full of kids. Mary Jane might die. Something like Thor 2, we all knew the universe was going to end because there was going to be a Thor 3.
See, that annoys me. There's a moment, I'm going about the horror element of the film. I can't do it now. I don't know the name of the film, and you might not remember. I always remember going these, Channel 4's top 100 horror movies flicks, yeah?
Yes, yeah.
And there's a great moment where it's a very old film, and there's a woman comes up behind a red girl in a hood.
Yeah, yeah.
Green Goblin, and that part of the fire. Superbly
It's class,
done.
isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely superbly done. So, for me, it doesn't hold out as a film as its own, but there's some scenes and there's some love for this film that I'll never forget. So I think it's going to always be out there. So I'll have a lot of heart for it, a lot of thing to it, but I can't see this going alongside maybe like something that's supposed to be an action romantic flick. So I say something like, I'm sorry to compare the two, but something like Die Hard.
That's interesting. That's really difficult to put those two alongside each other because they're very, very different. I would say Die Hard doesn't have the heart that Spider-Man has. The emotional resonance. One thing we have to mention before we wrap this up, though, I know we're running a little over. Danny Elfman.
Yes, thank you, good shout.
Danny Elfman.
Great composition.
The fact that we've had a Spider-Man franchise since this, and every time you say Spider-Man to me, this is the music that plays for me in my head. It's Danny Elfman scored.
Yeah.
Same guy that scored Tim Burton's Batman.
And he did a few others. He's actually doing Justice League, did you know?
Is he really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's working alongside Zack Snyder. Well, it's not Zack Snyder anymore, but you know what I mean.
Joss Whedon now,
yeah. Still, he did a few other films as well, but yeah, great show.
Yep. And it's a great little tune which like he swells it at the right moment. He knows when to use it. Add into this the fact that we've talked about the editing slightly, the fact it's got that horror kind of cheesy style to it.
It's great though.
Sam Raimi is also not afraid to let the camera off the leash. And he has a camera which literally will just happily fly through the city with him.
Okay.
Technically, that is so difficult to achieve. I'll put a couple shots down here where like the camera ebbs and flows and moves and twists and turns. It's very difficult to choreograph. You're smiling because you want to wrap it up.
No, I'm smiling because I don't know what the fuck we're going to do next week.
Okay, so you can let us know what you thought of Spider-Man down in the comments below. Next week, we'll be back with Nail and I. See how smooth that was?
Shame. Shame. Shame.
Thank you very much.
See you next week.